Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Pragmatic Investor. Now, I know it's been a while since we did one of these podcasts. I know you guys have missed it a lot, but don't worry because we're getting back into the full swing of things. We have today with us Nader. He is the real chart champ on Twitter. I've been talking to Nader a lot over the last month, talking about investing, crypto and trading in general. And I decided to have him on the show today to talk about cryptocurrencies. We talked a lot about Ethereum versus Solana, since we now have that pending Ethereum ETF, perhaps even a Solana ETF in the works. We also talked about AI and AI cryptocurrencies and markets in general. Nader is really knowledgeable when it comes to trading and cryptocurrencies. I remember a while back, he told me that he expected June to be a slow month in Bitcoin. He was definitely right about that, and I think he has some great insights when it comes to cryptocurrencies and AI. If you're not already subscribed, please go ahead and do that. Subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're watching this. It would make me really happy. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Nader's Twitter and channel. The links will be on the description. The Real Chart Champ. And as always, I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of The Pragmatic Investor. I'm here again with Nader, the Real Chart Champ, and we're going to talk a little bit about cryptocurrencies, Solana versus Ethereum, maybe cover a little bit about AI, obviously always a topic that is in vogue. Nader, thanks for joining me. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I thought we were live on my channel, but there was no audio, so I'm happy to do it on your channel now instead.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a mishap, technical difficulties. Hopefully in a few years, robots will be taking care of all these problems, and we can just focus on the important stuff, which is what's going to happen with Ethereum and Solana. We're just briefly talking about the Ethereum ETF. So let's just go over that a little bit before we get into it. What do you think about the Ethereum ETF?
So I'm very bullish on July. I think the ETFs get approved. We are getting some conflicting dates right now. With first, I heard September or end of the summer by Gensler, and now we are hearing some rumors of early July. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's out of our hands whenever they decide to approve it, but I have a good feeling about July. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of time. It seems to be quite confirmed, especially if you look at, for example, how we got that closing of that discount in the ETH, the Grayscale trust. I think it's pretty much happening now, and just a matter of time. I expect it to play out a little bit like Bitcoin, maybe a little bit of a sell the news around the event. Obviously, we'll get some outflows from the ETH fund, but other than that, again, incredibly bullish. Institutional money starting to chase into crypto. So definitely something that I'm interested in and looking out for. But obviously, a lot of people always talk about Ethereum versus Bitcoin. Today, I want to talk a bit about Ethereum versus Solana because we've seen a big price. We've seen Solana, really pick up in the last year or two. A lot of people are kind of saying, now saying it's definitely going to kill Ethereum. What are your brief thoughts on that, Nader, before I get into it?
So, what are my thoughts about the whole situation?
Yeah.
So right now, Solana is ranked number 5. I think Solana is could reach number 3. I don't know if we will see Binance ETF. I have a hard time seeing that, but I can see Solana reaching the 3rd spot.
Mm-hmm.
What I remember from the last cycle is there was a brief moment where XRP surpassed Ethereum in market cap. I think that might have happened the first cycle. As soon as that happened, that was the peak of XRP. So XRP briefly surpassed Ethereum in market cap and then completely crashed. So I think we could potentially see something similar where Solana doesn't have to crash, but I think the Solana price will peak if it surpasses Ethereum. I think that will be a major red flag for everyone. and I think there
Mhm.
will be a lot of sell pressure. So that is something that I'm keeping in the back of my mind, if that scenario happens. But for now, I think a Solana ETF will come eventually, and there actually is a Solana ETF right now by
Mhm.
Grayscale. It's called
Right.
GSOL, which I found out about a few months ago. I think anyone who is bullish on Solana, that's a pretty good way to get into the ETFs early.
Mhm.
Uh, Getting into GSOL before all the Solana ETFs get approved.
Mhm.
But we are seeing a pattern where the ETFs get approved, we get a sell off, and then we rally. So, we saw that we're seeing that with Ethereum right now with 3 weeks of downside.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. I was just wondering, does that Solana, because I guess it's a fund, right? Like it's not the ETF, it's a fund. Like you have Ether. Does it trade at a discount to net asset value?
I'm sorry, the NAV?
Yeah, like because like the Bitcoin and the Ethereum grayscale funds, they used to trade at a discount. Does this one trade at a discount?
Let me see.
It's the Grayscale Solana Trust discount to
Yeah.
NAV. Let's see.
Yeah, I haven't looked too much into it, but I saw someone recommended it to me on Twitter, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I personally don't like to invest through the ETFs. I believe to
Mm-hmm.
just own the actual asset directly. Um, but I noticed a pattern with Grayscale. There was a strong rally before the ETFs got approved. So I think we can see a similar situation with GSOL, the Grayscale Solana Trust.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so it is something I'm considering, but I am noticing a sell-off before the approval. So I sold off and then, I mean, sold off and then pumped. And now Ethereum got approved, sold off, and we're waiting for that pump right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely very interesting. I think a lot of people have gotten very excited about Solana in the last year. I'm just going to start sharing my screen a second because I wanted to first of all highlight. It's quite interesting if we do look at that chart. You can see that right now, Nader, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting if we look, for example, from the lows. Actually, this is the right. Yeah. Actually, Solana hasn't actually outperformed Ethereum by that much, depending on how far back we go back, right? Wait, this is correct. Wait a second. Comparing Ethereum and Ethereum. Wait a minute.
Yeah, that's
uh,
okay.
so we have the Solana chart there. And then, if we overlay the Ethereum chart on the same percentage scale, right? It's interesting, right? If we look at Solana from the lows, it's obviously outperformed Ethereum massively, right? We can see that it's gone up about, it's all covered up about 1,000%, right? But if we actually zoom in to the last year, actually we can see that Ethereum has actually outperformed Solana in the last year, right? So definitely interesting to see that. I wonder if there's an element of Solana kind of just at one point, obviously in the lows, when everything happened with FTX, it was just too oversold basically. So it was just a matter. So I'm wondering, first of all, if in terms of price, it's a matter of maybe not Solana outperforming so much, but just the fact that it was so oversold at one point, which means that obviously the returns have been a lot better. But ultimately, people talk about Solana versus Ethereum. If Solana can be the Ethereum killer, obviously both are layer one tokens. Basically, they're there to enable building decentralized apps and kind of having all those transactions upon that blockchain, right? And to that extent, I just wanted to do a quick comparison of Ethereum and Solana and kind of give my thoughts on which one is maybe fundamentally better and which one is perhaps a better buy at this moment. Obviously, Just a quick overview. Ethereum, of course, is a lot older, launched in 2015, Solana 2020. Now, very important to the fact of how they work and their consensus mechanism. Ethereum was proof of work, transitioned to proof of stake. We'll talk about that in a minute. And Solana, proof of stake, but also, it's called to kind of being something a bit different, is that what they call proof of history, which I'll talk about it in a little bit. And then in terms of the metrics, basically, most importantly, we can see that in theory, Solana has much higher transaction speeds than Ethereum. This is a bit dated, but it's roughly accurate. In theory, Solana can do about 65,000 TPS, maybe more. Ethereum, after the switch to staking, it can handle a bit more, and it will be able to handle a bit more later with sharding, right? So, but here's the crux of the situation, right? And it's what we call the Bitcoin trilemma. It's that idea that you have these three kind of characteristics that you want from your network, right? Decentralization, scalability, and security. Now, the point is that you can't really have all three, right? You kind of need to choose one of these axes and kind of live there, right? You can either have something that is decentralized and scalable, or decentralized and secure, or maybe secure and scalability, right? But you have to give something up, right? If you want scalability and security, you're going to have to give up decentralization. For example, I would say XRP maybe is something like that. If you want decentralization and security, like perhaps Bitcoin, you have to give up scalability, right? We know that obviously Bitcoin has its issues when it comes to transactions, a bit slow, and the people have complained about. It's why we have the Bitcoin Lightning Network, right? So in this regard, obviously, Solana came in, and basically, I would say Solana kind of improved a lot on scalability. There's some questions, though, about security and decentralization. But, obviously, I think a lot of people like to focus on scalability a lot more. Now, like I said before, Solana, in theory, chart before said it could reach up to 50, 60,000. It says here that it's been bench tested to do about 30,000 transactions per second, processing blocks every 2.34 seconds. So obviously a lot faster than Ethereum. And a lot of that has to do with what they call proof of history, that kind of add on to the consensus mechanism that they have, which it's a little bit hard to understand, but it's actually pretty simple. This chart kind of outlines it quite well. In proof of work, basically we have all the transactions kind of coming in individually, and obviously one transaction can't be finalized until the other one has been confirmed, right? Where there's proof of history, adds a timestamp, quote unquote, to each transaction, and that pretty much helps basically achieve much quicker finality and helps order those transactions much more quickly. The way they explain it here with a kind of example is talking about how basically how you would send perhaps a letter, let's say on a train. It says here from New York to LA, right? And it says if every station needs to verify the nature of this package, the previous stops it went through, every station needs to do the work again before package A finally reaches Los Angeles. It is easy to understand why this method is bloated and needless, right? So there's kind of this lack of communication. Whereas with the proof of history, what they call scenario B, where a package is sent from New York to LA. Now, each station can put their respective stamp on the package, creating a unique track record and proof of history for the given package. With this approach, every station will swiftly verify where the package came from and if it's legitimate. Okay, so this is kind of what is happening with that addition of proof of history, and basically, especially helping Solana achieve more transactions per second and increase finality. But
Okay,
with that, sorry.
one thing I wanted to add is you also have layer twos that also
Mm-hmm.
help to improve the system. And Michael Saylor was talking about layer threes being added on. So I think that is a factor to consider. Um, I think from an investment perspective, a lot of people think that Solana has more growth potential, higher return on investment potential in this cycle. And I've heard some people say that Solana has a better tech. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just what I feel like is driving the hype around Solana.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting because, as you say, with those layer twos, that is definitely something that I've been looking into for a long time. I was quite invested, for example, in and bullish on stuff like Polygon. We haven't really that's a layer two for Ethereum. We haven't really seen that take off this cycle. I'm not really sure why exactly. I mean, we can speculate a little bit, but yeah, definitely those layer twos have a lot to do. And also, I mean, other than that, we should also consider that, in theory, as we know, Ethereum switched to proof of stake. The next stage, it's underway right now, is this idea of sharding, right? They're going to also split the network itself into smaller networks, which I guess is kind of like implementing a layer two in a way. And supposedly, through sharding, they aim to be able to achieve about 100,000 transactions per second with that, with that implementation. However, as I pointed out before, the Bitcoin trilemma, scalability is important, but then there's decentralization and security, which is something which I think Solana lacks a lot. One of the ways we can look at that is if we look, for example, at the number of Solana validators. We'll get back to this conversation in just a minute, but first I wanted to talk to you guys about Seeking Alpha. As you know, I've been a contributor for some years now, and the first thing that attracted me to this platform was just the incredible amount of data and resources that it puts at your disposal. There's countless articles on most of the companies available in the US and abroad, tons of great investing ideas, loads of information on companies in terms of valuation, growth, profitability. You can find Wall Street estimates, earnings estimates, SEC filings, and it just makes investing so much easier. It's as simple as adding a stock ticker to your portfolio on Seeking Alpha, and you'll instantly be receiving emails and updates straight to your inbox with all the relevant information you need to stay up to date. You also have a stock screener, sector comparisons, and they even have their own Seeking Alpha quant rating, which you can access if you also subscribe to Alpha Picks. Personally, I use Seeking Alpha every day. I would feel lost without it, and I really think you could probably benefit from it too. If you'd like to check it out and try a 7-day free trial, you can do so in the link below. You'll also receive a discount. Now, let's get back to this conversation. According to this this data from Solana Beach, it's about 1507. What's quite funny as well, you see here the super minority, which is 20. And it says here, this number represents the smallest number of validators that together control more than 33% of the total stake. So these entities could theoretically censor, hold the network if they colluded. So supposedly, according to this data, if 20 of these validators colluded, they could basically hold the network. So obviously not very decentralized to that extent, compared to something like Ether, total validators, 1 million. Obviously a very different beast in the way it's created. But, to that extent, I guess, and I would ask you this, Nader, I mean, because I know in crypto, a lot of people worry a lot about this idea of the decentralization, but I mean, is centralization that bad? I think, and it pains me to say as someone who's, comes from more of a libertarian background for sure, but, I mean, sometimes maybe centralization is fine. No, I mean, sure, those 20 validators maybe can collude, but if those 20 validators, it's a bit like a company, right? If they're just a company trying to make profit, why would they collude against other people? And to that extent, do you think that there's room for centralization in the crypto space, so to speak?
So I remember back in the day, a lot of people were strongly against XRP for being too centralized. I think crypto started with the mission of kind of like a revolt against the banks, or, freedom money, as you hear people talking about now. I think all of that is BS. I think all of the wealthy people who, I mean, you literally have BlackRock in crypto right now managing Bitcoin. You have Michael Saylor who has control over a ton of Bitcoin, and the masses are just placing their trust in them. I think BlackRock could easily manipulate the price if they wanted to. And I think, I mean, they coexist, but the concept of being decentralized, I think, is just an illusion. So really, you have these whales that own the majority anyway, just because they created some money on the blockchain. Doesn't mean the whales won't just come in and control it. So we're seeing anytime the U.S. government starts regulating and all that stuff, like with public education, with anything really, any sector, any private sector that becomes, regulated, starts to get controlled. And I think this is no different. So I think crypto, we have this illusion of decentralization, but the real concern for me is the proposals to make changes for a specific crypto. Most of those are by majority vote based off how many crypto you own. So, like if Ethereum wants to make a change, and if a whale owns 51%, they call it a 51% attack. It was very common back in the day. We've seen some cryptos suffer from a 51% attack, where if someone owns more than 50%, they can just it's like a business. They own more than 51%, they can control it. They are the rightful owner. So in this case, I think you have several, a lot of wealthy people kind of working together against the average retail investor. It might not be obvious to most people, but when I saw BlackRock coming in, I knew it's a big red flag for me. Even though it's bullish, it's concerning for those who believe in the illusion of decentralization.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, we'll see how Bitcoin fares. I mean, Bitcoin, I think, is obviously a different creature. I mean, you say BlackRock can control. I mean, BlackRock, I'm sure, the whales can control the price to an extent, but I would say Bitcoin, at least now, due to its size, in terms of validators and the people running nodes, I don't think Bitcoin right now could suffer a 51% attack at this point. I think it's become a bit too big. So to that extent, I think Bitcoin does, whatever happens later, whether they fork it or someone, votes. But in terms of, being like a kind of more secure store of value, I do think Bitcoin at this point has some claim to that, which is obviously not the case with other cryptocurrencies. But then why would you? Every cryptocurrency doesn't have to be Bitcoin, right? You have Bitcoin, which is a store of value, digital gold, quote unquote. But Ethereum, Solana, they can be different things, right? And if that thing's a bit more centralized, maybe you need that to obviously you do need to sacrifice that to an extent to allow for improved efficiency, I think.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, but it makes sense. And just to wrap up this section, I did want to talk a little bit about basically, well, just to wrap up. Well, first of all, we covered already scalability, decentralization, security. I'm not going to get into it too much. We all know that Solana has a pretty jaded past in terms of security. It's one of the things that has put me off. They've had various attacks and some outages. Ethereum has had some, but not really as many. I mean, we did have, I think that was when they divided back into they had the fork right to Ethereum Classic that was following an attack, but nothing very relevant in the last few years, right? But so that one we would give to Ethereum, I think. But I also want to talk a bit about, I guess you could say, the valuation. So, I mean, one of the reasons Solana has been appreciating so much, I think, is basically if you look at, I mean, Solana is a bit like Ethereum in that you use Solana to pay for transactions, right, in its network, and so we can see that reflected in the increase in fees, right? We've seen a big increase in active users and a big increase in fees, especially towards the beginning of the year. This is all the way to about May. And it's interesting because I would say a lot of that does seem to be driven, of course, by meme coin speculation to an extent, which I think happens a lot more on Solana. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens, if and when, obviously, that kind of dies out a little bit. But, what is interesting to see is that, even though Solana has rallied a lot, if we actually, this was something that Mike Fay, my fellow SA contributor, is also on Substack. He does some great content on crypto, and he pointed out recently that, even though Solana has, come up a lot in price, if you actually look at valuation metrics, so to speak, like, for example, if you were to look at the fees compared to the market cap, because the fees have run up so much, it's actually decently valued, right? I think I was writing these calculations before real quick, but I think basically if you look at the fees compared to Solana, it's about, the ratio would be about 700. If you look at something like Ethereum, it would be much closer, like over 1,000, right? So to that extent, Solana a bit cheaper, so to speak, if we look at market cap compared to fees, especially after this recent run up. But again, I think a lot of that does hinge on the fact that there's all this kind of meme coin speculation going on in Solana. So I don't know. It's definitely going to be interesting to see. I don't know. What do you think about? I mean, do you think, in terms of value, do you think like we're going to see a shift going forward into using Solana more than Ethereum, or is that going to die off eventually?
So Michael Saylor thinks that they will coexist, and I think it makes sense. I think there will be a few layer ones that just exist together. Um, I feel like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana are locked in right now. Uh, they will survive. The one that's up and coming is Ton. I'm hearing a lot about Ton. A lot of people are on Telegram.
Which one?
Sending
Sorry, Tron.
Ton,
Or
yeah, TON.
oh, TON.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's getting very popular. People think that it will just keep growing, and I can see it because Telegram is very popular for crypto. So you have a lot of people just going on Telegram, trading and networking there. So
Mm-hmm.
I can see Ton being up there, but at the end of the day, I feel like they will coexist. Solana has its own focus. Ethereum has its own focus. With Solana right now, you're seeing a lot of meme coins, a lot of celebrity pump and dumps, things like that. But a lot of people really like Solana. It has a lot of
Mm-hmm.
marketing. It has that big FTX scandal and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, the tech is good. Uh, it's well known, and the price is going up like crazy. So I think it's a pretty good combination of getting people excited, uh,
Mm-hmm.
especially with that celebrity endorsement. I don't know if you saw a little pump tattooed Solana on his forehead. I don't know if
Did
you
he
saw that.
really?
Yeah. So I mean,
Oh
he's
wow,
getting just this crazy hype around it.
that's I don't know. I think that's a contrarian indicator if there ever was one. I think once Lil Pump is tattooing stuff on his forehead, maybe that's the sell alert.
That's
Gonna have to rethink my Solana position. I mean, we talked about this last time. I've reluctantly, obviously, well, I've always had a bit of a play on Solana, more or less here and there, and reluctantly, kind of increasing it, of course, as the tide seems to be turning. I mean, so yeah, I think it's definitely going to be. Obviously, I think there's going to have to be a few that coexist. Solana is doing very well right now, and like you say, they just have that marketing going for them, which I think we mentioned last time we were speaking. Some other coins, I think they also have maybe very good tech, but if you don't invest enough, if you don't invest enough in that marketing and really kind of get that what would you call it? If you pass that kind of point where you really get enough usage and enough kind of presence out there to kind of become mainstream, which again, yeah, I think Solana is right now, right? Solana, Ethereum, and Bitcoin definitely have reached that status, I would say. But again, price right now, I mean, would you say Ethereum or Solana right now in terms of future returns? If you were pressed, of course, not financial advice, disclaimer.
I love Solana at $10, $20. I don't know how I feel about it at the current price levels. I still like it. I think Ethereum can go to, I would say, around 20,000 the cycle. I
Mhm.
think I think Solana can go to maybe $1,000 per coin. So in terms of return, I would say I would favor Solana a little bit. Um, there's a lot of degeneracy surrounding Solana, a lot of pump and dumps, and
Mm.
I'm not too big of a fan of that. It's like kind of giving the crypto industry a bad look. We're trying to bring in regulation and institutions, and then you have all these like racist coins and coins with crazy names and stuff like that, and everybody acting a fool. But they're making crazy money. I mean, this morning I saw someone turn I think $700 into $500,000 in like a day, which is insane. But a lot of people
Wow.
get rug pulled. Yeah, a lot of people get rug pulled. I don't know if you noticed 50 Cent. I was talking about it on Monday, but somebody hacked his account, posted a G Unit meme coin, rug pulled everybody, and left with 300 million in like 24 hours. And before 50 Cent even found out he got hacked.
Wow.
So I don't think it's a good look. I don't think it will last. I feel like a lot of people get burned. I know some people who actively trade meme coins. They talk about you have a couple minutes to buy and sell. As soon as it's posted on Twitter, it's pretty much over. They start rug pulling everyone. So it's just a
Mhm.
very risky game. I mean, if you want to gamble a small amount, then go for it. But I don't know how long it'll last.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, there's definitely an element of gambling. I guess it's a little bit like poker, right? Because I always, I used to be quite into poker, and obviously it's a gambling game, but I like to think, well, and there is, an edge you can gain basically, A, by understanding, obviously the mathematics behind and the probabilities, and to an extent, and well, to a big extent also by understanding the players around you, right? And the sentiment and what people are thinking and how they're going to act and react to different actions. And to an extent, that's quite similar to meme coins, right? It's all about kind of understanding, the society around you. Obviously, what's popular, what's not. I think, obviously, I mean, I wouldn't disagree. I think there's an edge. I think you can have an edge on meme coins. Someone who's definitely got their ear to the ground and very much on top of everything. I don't know. I'm just curious if anyone's launched the Hawk 2 meme coin yet. Surely that's been done.
That's funny. Have you looked at AI cryptos?
Uh, Not so much since we last spoke. I mean, we talked a little bit about Ocean and that merger, which I really want to get your insights into, because I think that's going to be official on the first, I think, or the end of this month. Is that when it's happening?
So it's funny you say that. I wanted to talk about it. Um, I'll share my screen in a second. So they kept on pushing the date back. Yeah, I talked
Hmm.
about it on Monday, but it was a very dirty move. Um,
Oh.
the day of the actual merger, they pretty much told everybody, sorry, we're postponing it. And I was so excited. It's the big day, you know, and they let everyone down. But just the way that they handled it was just wasn't a good look. But I suspect it's a bit of manipulation.
Hmm.
Uh, I've seen Binance do a lot of manipulation back in the day, and this coin is Fetch is attached to Binance, so
Hmm.
I feel like they are correlated to each other. And right now, they're saying that the date will be there are a few different dates. So July 1st, Ocean and Singularity Net will merge with Fetch. And then in the middle of July, they didn't give a specific date, but in the middle of July, we will get some Fetch turning into ASI. As for
Hmm.
our super intelligence. I think me and you have talked about ASI. So the whole concept is we are currently in a stage of artificial general intelligence, and where you have tasks like chat GPT and things like that, but artificial super intelligence gets to the point where AI can outperform us, way better than us at multiple different tasks. So
Mm-hmm.
you're essentially building like a supercomputer. So right now, what we are seeing is a race, an AI race to reach ASI. You have OpenAI, which I think is the dominant leader. You have NVIDIA playing an important role, and Google, and companies like that. But right now, I think Fetch, the whole concept of ASI is. Let me share my screen real quick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so the whole concept of ASI is they are trying to beat centralized AI. So they're trying to beat out Microsoft, companies like that. And they think that if a centralized company, I mean, we were talking about centralization, but if a centralized company like Microsoft uh, make some advancements in AI, they're just going to keep it for themselves and not really share it with everyone. So Fetch and the new ASI that's forming, they're trying to create a network so that individuals and businesses can leverage AI, create AI tools, sell AI products, have access to AI resources, and they have a bit of an ethical mission of protecting privacy and things of that nature. But right now, I think Fetch is likely to have a melt up in July and August. If we look at the transpider seasonality, the part about it that was very dirty is
Mm-hmm.
the timing. So the seasonality doesn't lie, right? And the timing that they chose was literally the most bearish seasonality of the entire price history. And so April, May, and June were the 3 months
Mm-hmm.
that they let us on, telling us that the merger will take place. And
Mm-hmm.
average returns here is 15% decline, 8% decline, and 19% decline. And so I think there will be a pretty strong pump in July, on average 44% pump in July, and almost 17% in August. So I'm bullish on these 2 months, but really they kind of baited everybody into getting hyped up about the merger here, and let them down, kept on postponing it, put out a lot of vague information, things of that nature. But I think the drop already happened, the bearish trend already happened. The price has dropped from the highs over here around 350 down to $1. That's a pretty big swing, and during this bearish few months. And my my feeling is we got a very strong bounce forming here.
Mm-hmm.
I think we are going parabolic. Uh, we did get some disappointing news today from Coinbase. Coinbase said that they're not going to be supporting the merger. Um, and a great analogy for me is Matic. So I've had to deal with this type of fear and uncertainty and doubt with Matic. At the time when Matic was 2 cents, I'll switch over to the for you. So when Matic was 2 cents, so it was literally around here at the
Mm-hmm.
all-time lows. The U.S. government started coming after crypto, and they came after Coinbase. They came after Binance. They said, we cannot legally be on Binance. So we had to get off of Binance, and we had to use essentially just Coinbase, Robinhood, a few crypto exchanges. And the SEC went after a bunch of cryptos, including Matic. Back then it was Polygon. And actually it's Matic and then it turned into Polygon. But what happened is they removed Matic from Coinbase and they made it essentially illegal for us to invest in Matic. We had to go through hurdles and use a VPN and things like that to go and buy on Binance. And they created Binance US, which was a joke. They barely had any liquidity. You could barely get your order filled. Nobody was trading on it. And Matic wasn't available on Binance US. It was considered a security that we couldn't legally invest in. So this crypto went from 2 cents to $2.72 in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what they did was they just scared everybody here. They said it's illegal to own, which really makes people we're trying not to be criminals here. We're trying to just follow the laws and invest. You don't want to, do anything that will get you in trouble. So in this case, they made it pretty difficult to invest in Matic. Most people won't sit there and, try to figure out a solution. They'll just sell and invest in something else. So I think that's what happened to most people. I had a large Matic position. I had to stress out and figure out where I want to store it. If I can even sell it someday, will there be an exchange for me to legally transfer my funds and sell it someday? So these are all some serious questions that I have to decide here. And at the end of the day, it was a no-brainer because you have Coinbase and Binance investing in that. And right now, Fetch has a pretty similar history with Matic. It was created through Binance. Back in the day, Binance used to create these coins, any coin that they partnered with. And what I mean by partnership is they receive the majority of, or a pretty significant stake in the crypto. Mm-hmm. And what they do is they list it on their exchange and they hype it up and things like that. So Fetch was one of these cryptos. It went from 1 cent to now almost $4. So they're essentially printing money from thin air by creating this, marketing it, and turning it into a business. But I think Fetch has a lot of whales that want to send this price up. I think ASI will reach, potentially $100 someday. Right now it's trading around $1.60. That's 100% return on investment from current price. But there is a lot of mind games being played here. You're getting your leg pulled with this whole ASI narrative that keeps getting delayed. I think ASI will finally occur in July, but right now you're hearing news of Coinbase saying they don't support the merger. So we have to figure out another exchange. Really, it's not too bad because we could just transfer our funds to crypto.com, but I think most people don't want to go through those types of obstacles. So they would rather just sell. There are thousands of cryptos they can invest in. They'd rather just sell and focus on something else. It's just my feeling. And I'm seeing a lot of that in the Discord group with Clear Value. Some people are saying that they'd rather just sell than, figure out what exchange to put their funds on or how to follow the steps of the merger. So that's just kind of my feeling about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it makes sense. I think obviously you don't make money by just doing what's obvious, right? I think it's definitely important sometimes to be contrarian, and of course you gotta resist those shakeouts. And I guess it's always darkest before the dawn, right? Is what they say, and I mean, definitely from what you say, I think it's definitely a very interesting coin. I think obviously the AI hype is behind it, and I think there's definitely has some room to run. As you know, I am invested in Ocean, which is one of the coins which is merging in to become ASI. So I'll definitely be looking to hold a position and maybe expand it even once the once that merge happens.
So have you been buying more, or like have you been following all this news and stuff like that?
I have been following it very closely, and I've just held on to my position in Ocean, and I did buy a little bit of Fetch since we last talked as well.
Okay. I actually like Singularity Net the most.
Hmm.
Um, the founder of Singularity Net, he's actually, they say that he is the one who coined the term artificial general intelligence.
Hmm.
So they say there wouldn't be, he is the leading developer of the framework for artificial general intelligence. I just think he's a very bright person. I found out about Singularity Net back in 2017. I think I found out way too early. AI wasn't even really, a realistic
Mm.
thing back then. But I saw them doing some pretty amazing things, like this Sophia bot. I'm not sure if you've seen this bot, but
Mm. Right. Yeah, I've seen the.
yeah, it can recognize facial recognition. It can recognize emotion. But I think this team, my criticism back in the day is they're focused too much on building a quality project, and they're not doing any marketing. Nobody knew about them, but they were working very hard on what they're building.
Mhm.
And I think now, after ChatGPT was released in 2000, I forgot what year, but a couple of years ago, at this point, I think 2022, this really took off. Everything with AI took off. One of those was Singularity Net, and I think people are starting to realize that AI is a big narrative. So I'm bullish on all things AI. Uh, I've talked to you, I think, about SoundHound. I think
Mhm.
SoundHound. I think SoundHound is more risky because there's too many voice AI competitors, but SoundHound is doing a good job. They have partnerships with NVIDIA, which is great, and they're focused on restaurant and automobiles. So I think you know s-
Mm.
spreading quickly across restaurant chains and getting pre-built into the new cars, I feel like that's a pretty good business model.
Mhm. Yeah, I actually did a bit of a deep dive on SoundHound. Posted that on my Substack. So yeah, I was looking into it, and definitely it looks quite bullish. I think the now at the what is it now at about $4? It seems like a pretty reasonable place to buy. Some good support there. So yeah, I agree. SoundHound is definitely interesting, and yeah, Singularity token also also one that I don't think I own right now, but I have owned it before. Definitely an interesting one, and definitely I'll be looking to pick up some more. When the merger happens, I guess if you say like have something on Binance, it'll just get converted automatically, I assume, right?
So the merger, you have Ocean and Singularity Net merging into Fetch. That takes place around July 1st. And then around July 14th, you have Fetch completely turning into ASI. So if you're holding Ocean, you want to make sure you have it on an exchange that is supporting the merge, just so that they can do everything for you.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, Coinbase came out and said they won't be doing that. So I think it's creating a lot of fun right now. Uh, People are concerned about. I see a lot of newbies. They panic a lot about these types of things. They don't want
Hmm.
to do it wrong. Maybe lose some money by making a mistake. So there is some fear for sure, but I think fetch looks pretty parabolic to me. We have a parabolic curve forming. Uh, I feel like with the bullish seasonality that we discussed here, almost 45% gains on average here, and almost 17% gains on average here. I can see us just breaking out above this red resistance zone and just starting a rally. So I think it won't be too difficult to reach $10. I am a bit curious to see how high it can go with the cycle. I'm hoping it reaches at least $100.
Oh, that would be that would be a substantial returns.
Yeah, that would be insane. That would be great. So we've only had one altcoin season. I'd imagine we have a bigger one this cycle, and I feel pretty confident that we will have a second one. We've had multiple Bitcoin cycles, and we've only had one altcoin cycle. So I think really this is a chance for some building some wealth during the next year and a half or so.
Awesome. Well, I think we've covered quite a lot today. I think good talk on Solana, Ethereum. I was going to say Solarium. Maybe they can merge together one day, Solana and Ethereum, and form Ethlana or Solarium. That would be interesting for sure. Is there anything else you want to add? I think we covered pretty much everything I wanted to talk about.
I think that's pretty much it. I will work on fixing the audio issues, and then we can run it back. I'll do a private stream, so my apologies for that.
Awesome. Well, there'll always be a next time. It's you're a bit like the Fetch and ASI merger. You keep teasing us with the live streams, but they never quite come together.
Yeah, it might have been. That's a good analogy, actually. Well, I'm glad you ended up buying some more Fetch. Hopefully it pays off in July, and you'll forgive me.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks again, Nader, for having a chat with me. Hope everyone enjoyed it, and we'll do this again sometime.
All right. Thank you, James. Enjoy the rest of your vacation.
All right. Bye, everyone.